Hi, I'm Carla Nathan from Carla's Cottage, and I was going to show you today how to make some ruffles. If you're making a tag, it's nice to finish the edges with a ruffle, and I use sheet music quite often. Sometimes I use old paper. You know, this is something from cutting a tag out here a minute ago, and that little strip that's left over, you hate to waste, so that would make a pretty good ruffle. The reason I know this would make a pretty good ruffle is this isn't a real fragile piece of paper. Some old papers you just don't want to mess with that way because they'll crumble or they'll tear. This ledger paper is also a good texture and would do very well. And a lot of sheet music can be kind of heavy and does a good job with a ruffle. Sometimes it'll split, but that's nice too because it doesn't have to be perfect. You probably don't want to use wallpaper. One reason is that the back of it's plain, and so your ruffle would only be one-sided. I like to use the sheet music because you have the decoration on both sides, like this. And also wallpaper, sometimes it just kind of is too fragile. It just doesn't do as well. It doesn't have as much bend to it. I think it'll split. It's a heavier paper. So I've got some different things out here that we can use. I've got some tags ready. How about if we take this one that I just cut out of here, and to coordinate the back with the front, I'll use this across the front. So when you cut the strip out of paper, make sure you get something that's at least 1.5 times as long as what you're going to, the width of the piece that you're putting it on. And also, you really don't want all these just plain white ends. Go ahead and snip those off so you won't be tempted to use them. And don't worry if it's cut straight or not, because you're going to be doing a trim over it and then snipping the bottom of it to make it where you want. Now, sometimes you can put the ruffle on the back of the tag, which gives you a nice clean line on the front. Other times you go ahead and put it on the front of the tag, and then you can add a strip of something over it like I did here. Sometimes you can use ribbon, or I cut out a bit of contrasting paper with a scalloped edge and then put a little doodad on it. See how this one is? It's on the back. You can put a piece of ribbon across the back too. I do think it's important to have the back look every bit as nice as the front, so I always finish the backs as I'm going. And another nice thing to do is just to wrap it all the way around. Put a bead of glue and wrap it around, and then add a little bit of something there. Anyway, there's lots of different ways to trim out tags. You know how to trim out a tag. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about ruffles, so I digress. So I've got my strip of paper, and it's more than 1.5 times as wide as the card. It's kind of like when you're doing ruffles in a curtain. They say that when you're hanging curtains, you need to have at least 1.5 the width. So I go by that. I don't know if that really works or not. So I'm going to put this one on the front. I like either one of these glues. This one is incredibly tacky. This one's the Ultimate. The Ultimate is a little bit stronger. So depending on what you're going to use, I'd use this on the ribbon, and this if it's just paper, and since right now it's only paper, that's what we're going to do. It's a messy thing, but if it's gooey, it's easier to move things around. You need some goo because you have some sliding ahead. So you put a bead across the bottom of the tag where you want the ruffle, and I'm going to go with the edge of the paper where it's white because there's going to be a ribbon or something, as we discussed, across the top later. And you don't have to line it up exactly. Can you see right here where I've got a little bit over the edge, because that's going to be cut. That leaves you some room to trim. Now this is like an accordion pleat. Just like you're making a fan, back and forth and back and forth. And you see I'm not measuring, and it's not particularly straight. I don't like things too perfect. If it's too straight, it's just not as interesting. Plus, the bottom gets trimmed. You know what I just did? I did that upside down, because look, remember how I cut it off the back and was going to make sure that didn't show, that Well, this one isn't going to be as cute as I thought it was going to be. But it might work.
Even Carla makes mistakes.
Oh, lots of them. But see how that doesn't quite look very good? Well, it's squishy, so you can move it. That's what's nice. You just kind of rearrange it in the glue. While the glue's wet, you slide it around, and then you push it in place. And anybody that would look at that would think, oh, that looks nasty. What is she thinking? But it'll be fine, because you take your glue and go straight across the top of it. First, you open your lid. It doesn't come out as well closed. So you put some glue across the top of the ribbon, or across the top of the ruffle, and then you add a ribbon to your ruffle. And you want to hold it up and look to judge with the back of the tag to make sure it's straight, because it's hard to tell with the crooked ribbon or the crooked ruffle. I keep saying that, don't I? So the back of the tag is how you work from to see if you've got it straight. You go along with the edge of the tag, trimming with this along the side of it.
Fine, just keep going.
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Now, see, I'm going to have to take this part out.
I leave it. Okay.
Leave it.
So, I've got it all trimmed even with the sides of the back of the tag. But it still looks kind of messy. Well, you take a pretty scalloped edge scissor, which is what I like to use, but you know what? You can use a straight too. But I think the scallop, especially with a flowery wallpaper, I think it's just pretty. And you trim it in a nice little arc, straight on the bottom and curved up the side. And there you go. Now if you want to do yet another step to make it even prettier, I'm going to get that a little bit straighter. You can go back in, snip a little bit more off if you need to. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be better than that. There, that's better. It just keeps getting shorter and shorter. But you know what? That's how it happens. Sometimes they do. So, after you've got it trimmed, what I like to do is take a little pigment pad, a little stamp block, and just go over the edges gently. And sometimes even softly across the ruffles. See how that makes the ruffles stand out a little bit more? On the back too. There you go. And you can finish embellishing your tag. Add a little bit of flowers, some buttons, anything like that to the ribbon. That's it. Thank you.